They didn't say my name at home. They called me the burden. If I made tea, they said I wasted sugar. If I breathed too loud, they asked why I was trying to attract pity. My sister Emily was the favorite. She got the new phone, the car keys, the soft smiles in the morning. I got a list of chores taped to the fridge like a police notice. I learned to keep quiet. Quiet saves energy. Quiet hides pain. I worked 2 part-time jobs after school. I wiped tables at a diner before the sun rose. I stacked boxes at a small warehouse till my hands shook. When I brought my paycheck home, my mother would fold it in half, slide it into her purse, and say, "Under our roof, your money is family money." Family money meant Emily's hair appointments and the gas in her car. Family money never meant toothpaste for me when mine ran out. One afternoon I brought home a small certificate from school. I had won first place in an essay contest. I stood in the doorway and held it up like a peace flag. My father didn't look up from the TV. He said, "Trash collects random papers." Then he changed the channel. I started a second bank account with a debit card I kept hidden behind the lining of my backpack. I deposited tips there. I kept receipts for everything I bought, even soap. I learned to take pictures of cash before I handed it over at home, just in case someone called me a liar later. Distrust makes a person organized. At the diner, people came in before dawn with tired eyes and hard stories. One of them was a woman in a neat suit who ordered black coffee and oatmeal every morning. She worked in finance. She liked that I remembered her order and kept the spoon on the left because she was left-handed. She asked why I looked so tired. I told her I was fine. She laughed softly and said nobody working 3 shifts is fine. She told me about a free online course in bookkeeping. She said, if you can handle plates at rush hour, you can handle numbers. Numbers complain less. I went home and studied after midnight when the house was quiet. The fridge hummed like a lonely machine. I learned spreadsheets, invoices, cash flow, and tax basics. Numbers started to feel like clean air. The warehouse owner noticed I could count faster than the hand scanner. He asked me to help in the tiny back office, entering orders for local shops. My pay went up by $2 an hour. $2 felt like a sunrise. At home, nothing changed. Emily posted selfies in dresses I had steamed and ironed. My mother asked why there were 3 missing eggs from the fridge when she had planned an omelette for Emily. My father said there was a smell of failure around me and asked me to open a window. I kept collecting proof. I kept working. I kept stacking small, careful wins. My secret account grew from 2 digits to 3, from 3 to 4. $10 became 100. 100 became 500. I started to believe I could lift myself without anyone's permission. I imagined a door with my name on it. I imagined turning the knob without asking. On my birthday, nobody remembered. The cake in the fridge had Emily's name on it for a party the next day. I sat on the back steps with a paper cup of tap water and watched the sky fade. I told myself a quiet truth. Nobody is coming to save me. I would have to become the person who walks in. The diner had a corkboard near the register. People pinned business cards and lost cat flyers. I made a little flyer of my own. Bookkeeping help for small shops. Invoices, inventory, tax prep basics. Reliable. Affordable. I used a free template, printed 10 copies at the library, and stuck them around town where somebody might need a hand. My first client was a florist named Nora who was drowning in Valentine's Day orders. She paid me in cash and peonies. I set up a simple spreadsheet for her with columns that actually told a story. Date, item, cost, price, profit. She cried when I showed her the total at the bottom because she hadn't seen profit on paper in months. It's not magic, I said. It's your hard work, just sorted. Word traveled. The thrift owner who sold Emily's dresses on commission called me. The bike repair guy with grease under his nails called me. A food truck couple who argued in whispers called me. I spent evenings at their counters, counting, labeling folders, and building tiny systems out of chaos. Small systems make big lives possible. That line became my quiet slogan. I built a simple website on my phone. It had 3 pages: services, prices, contact. I wrote the copy like I was speaking to someone who was tired, busy, and worried. I'll keep the numbers so you can keep the customers. I kept my prices low, but not free. People don't respect free. People respect fair. In 3 months my secret account crossed 5,000. I stared at the number and felt a mix of pride and fear, like I had smuggled light through a checkpoint. I bought a cheap laptop that didn't whine when I opened 3 tabs. I bought noise-canceling headphones so I could work while Emily recorded makeup videos in the living room. At home, pressure rose like steam. My mother asked why I came in so late. My father said I had no right to keep any money because the roof above my head belonged to him. Emily complained that I made the hallway look poor with my thrift shoes. One night when I refused to hand over my entire envelope of cash, my father grabbed my backpack and shook it until my pens and receipts rained onto the floor. He found nothing. I had moved the card to the pocket of my jeans and stitched the pocket shut. The next morning I found my drawers open and clothes tossed. Someone had searched my room. The lining of my old backpack was torn. The hidden slot where I used to keep the debit card was ripped. My body turned cold and then hot. I smiled at my quiet decision to move the card. I also took pictures. Chaos needs witnesses. I started paying a small rent to a friend who owned a tiny studio above his uncle's auto shop. It smelled like tires and hope. I kept my toothbrush there and a change of clothes. I told my mother I was staying late at work. I told myself I was building a bridge 1 plank at a time. When my father asked for my bank statements for proof of gratitude, I told him a sentence I had never said in that house. No. He slapped the table hard enough that a glass fell and cracked. He said I was ungrateful and poisonous, and that any money I had came from the privilege of sleeping under his roof. I said calmly that my money came from my clients and that I could afford my own roof. He laughed, a loud, sharp sound, and told me I could leave that second if I was so independent. I picked up my backpack. He blinked like he expected me to beg. I didn't. The first night in the studio, I lay on a mattress on the floor and counted the streetlights through the blinds. Independence is loud at first. Then it becomes a steady hum. I woke with sunlight on my face and brewed coffee in a borrowed kettle. I opened my laptop and sent 3 invoices. The sound of the email swoosh felt like a new kind of heartbeat. By summer I had 10 steady clients. I registered a small business name and bought a simple lockbox. I used a portion of my earnings to help the warehouse owner renegotiate his vendor contracts and took a percentage of the savings as my fee. I learned that numbers could not only count work, they could defend it. When one client tried to delay payment, I sent a firm, clear notice with dates and amounts. He paid the next day, and added a tip. Respect follows clarity. Emily called one afternoon with a sugar voice that made my stomach knot. She said she wanted to meet for coffee, as sisters. She chose a place with large windows and shiny cups. She wore a white dress and disappointment as perfume. She asked about my little spreadsheet hobby. I told her I was doing fine. She leaned close and said Mom and Dad were worried about me. She said they wanted to help manage my money so I didn't waste it. She suggested I move funds into an account my father could oversee. I smiled and said no. Her mouth tightened. You're turning into a different person, she said. I replied, no. I'm turning into myself. 2 days later my mother called crying, saying I had stolen her gold bracelet at dinner last month. She said she couldn't find it and that the only explanation was that I had taken it. I had not been to dinner last month. I had moved out. I told her to check the top shelf of her closet where she kept old shoeboxes. She screamed that I was calling her careless and hung up. The next morning 2 officers knocked on my studio door. A complaint had been filed. They were polite but firm. I answered every question. I showed my lease. I showed time-stamped invoices and messages proving where I was on the date they claimed I had been home. I did not cry. Evidence is a better language than tears. A week later my father attempted to access one of my client's accounts using my old warehouse computer login. He failed and left a trail anyone could read. The client saw the alerts and called me at once. We locked things down and changed passwords. My client offered to press charges. I said we would write a letter first. I hired a small, sharp lawyer named Mrs. Quinn with a tidy desk and eyes like winter. I paid her retainer from my own account. I showed her everything: photos of the torn backpack lining, screenshots of my mother's calls, the police report, the login attempts, and the receipts from the years at home showing the money I had contributed for basics while being called garbage. She read quietly and said, "We will not be loud. We will be exact." We sent a cease and desist letter to my parents demanding they stop defaming me and attempting to access any of my work systems. We asked for a written apology and a retraction to the police. We offered a deadline. They responded with a longer threat, accusing me of theft, disobedience, and turning Emily against her family with jealousy. Mrs. Quinn filed a petition for a protective order and a defamation claim. The court set a date. "This will be ugly," she warned. I nodded. I had already lived ugly. The night before the hearing, Emily posted a story online saying I had abandoned my family and stolen opportunities from her. My old classmates commented with popcorn emojis. I turned off my phone and sat in the quiet. I pictured the courtroom like a small square of truth where words would be measured instead of thrown. On the morning of the hearing, I wore a simple navy dress and flats that didn't make noise. Mrs. Quinn handed me a folder labeled with my name. Inside were facts, timelines, statements, bank proof, client letters, the police case number, and a printout of my business license. I felt like a house built on stone. When my parents entered the courtroom, my mother wouldn't look at me. My father stared like he wanted the judge to disappear. Emily sat 2 rows behind them, dressed like a magazine ad for innocence. I sat still. Rage is a spark. Dignity is a lamp. The judge was a middle-aged woman with calm hands and a clear voice. She began by reminding everyone that the courtroom was not a stage. She said facts would speak and that emotion would be respected but could not lead. My parents' lawyer started with a story about a wayward daughter who had been corrupted by internet money. He painted my parents as patient saints who had sheltered a thankless child. He held up a photo of our house like it was a certificate of morality. He said the gold bracelet was a family heirloom and that my absence at dinner was suspicious because guilty people avoid family events. Mrs. Quinn stood and said, "We'll be simple." She handed the judge a stack of exhibits labeled A through M. She walked the court through dates and times, through screenshots of my mother's calls, through my work logs, through the police report. She showed the login attempt from my father's old workplace and the security alert that traced back to his device. She presented letters from my clients describing my integrity and clear communication. She showed the court proof that my absence at dinner matched 3 invoices sent from my studio at the exact hour they claimed I was stealing jewelry at home. Then Mrs. Quinn did something small and devastating. She asked the judge's permission to read 2 lines from my mother's social media post from 3 years ago, where my mother had bragged that her beloved bracelet was a gift Emily picked out for her last Christmas. The date of the post was 1 year after they claimed the bracelet had become a family heirloom before I was born. The courtroom air shifted. People pretend memory is a wall. Online, it's a mirror. The judge asked my parents 2 questions directly. Did you go into your daughter's old room after she moved out? They said yes. Did you attempt to access her client's accounts? My father said no. Mrs. Quinn held up the security alert emails with his name on them, time-stamped. The judge looked at him for a long time. Silence is a kind of verdict. Then the judge turned to me. I want to understand your finances, she said. Where does your money come from? I told her about the diner, the warehouse, the bookkeeping work, the 10 clients, the contract percentages, and the business registration. Mrs. Quinn handed over a printout from my bank that showed steady deposits from multiple clients, not one strange lump sum. The judge scanned the page. She raised her eyes. This balance, she said, and read the number. There was a small sound behind me like someone had dropped a pin in a church. Emily inhaled sharply. My mother's mouth fell open in a shape that would have caught dust if we were outside. My father's face drained like a bucket with a hole. The number was not the amount of a child stealing a bracelet. It was the number of a woman who had learned to turn long hours into clean lines of value. I did not smile. I did not look back. I focused on the wood grain of the bench in front of me and counted the lines like old tree rings. Let people discover what dignity looks like. Let them find out it isn't loud. The judge spoke slowly. She said the evidence of defamation was strong. She said the attempted system access by my father was documented. She said the accusation about the bracelet had no support and that the prior social media post contradicted their story. She granted the protective order and warned that any further harassment would lead to sanctions. She ordered my parents to retract the police complaint in writing and to refrain from contacting my clients or referencing my business on social media. She awarded attorneys' fees. There was a moment after the gavel where nobody moved. The courtroom felt as if someone had wrung fear out of it and left it lighter. Mrs. Quinn touched my elbow. "We're done," she said. "You're free to go." Free is a big word. It barely fits in a mouth.